1 second.
All right, you hear me?
Hello?
Yep.
Yep, got you.
All right. Tennessee State head coach Eddie George, the Tigers played Grambling in Canton, Ohio this past Sunday. They'll return to action this Saturday, the Southern Heritage Classic, the Liberty Bowl against Jackson State head coach Deion Sanders. So, Coach, just, I guess, a few general thoughts on your team, and then we'll get into questions.
Yeah. After looking at a game like that, it's never as lose is never as good as you think when you win. But looking at what we've done, it hurt because in spite of all of the mistakes we had offensively, special teams wise, with the penalties, we still were in a position to win the game in the end. It was heartening to see that, in those critical moments. It looked like on the 3rd and 1 when we just jumped off sides late in the third quarter, jumped off sides, and then we had another jumped off sides again and a holding penalty, and then the block punt that led to a block punt and gave them the short field for them to score. We could never rebound from that offensively. We had several opportunities to get in the game, to win the game, but just didn't pull it out. And to lose to a very good team, to a coach that has won 50 some odd games, lost 14, has won a couple championships in our first outing. It showed that we have some oxygen. Defensively, I think we played well enough to win. We have some good things in special teams. As offensively, we lacked the identity, and there was a lot of reasons why, but I don't believe in excuses. But there's a lot to build on, a lot to get better from, a lot to get better for me as well as a head coach in terms of clock management, making sure we're getting the plays in on a timely fashion, and executed in a timely fashion, so our young players are not feeling pressed up against the time, which leads to mistakes. So we're addressing those issues now, but it's really excited, to have a game in a short week to kind of get this bad taste out our mouths. It's going up against a team that's very explosive. They didn't show it this past Saturday in Deion's team, Jackson State. Their offense didn't show it, but they're capable of putting up some points in a hurry. And their defense is very active. They do a lot of multiple fronts. They are very aggressive, athletic up front. And we have our hands full. It's going to be a game where it's going to be a fist fight.
Thanks, Coach. If someone has a question for Coach George, if you just let me know down in the chat, I can call on you in the order that I see the questions. I'm going to ask you, actually, we'll let Teresa go first. No, Teresa, we'll let you go first while Mike's moving. So if you want to go with your questions first.
Sorry about that.
Appreciate it, Mike and Eddie. You have a short turnaround. You play on Sunday. You have to travel back. Now you've got to travel down to Memphis in a big game. I mean, there's so much pageantry around this Southern Heritage Classic. How much are you looking forward to, going out and coaching against Deion?
Well, that's our next game, and it's in Memphis, and it's against Jackson State. And of course, we know the history between these two schools, even with Big John Merritt, how he coached at Jackson State, then he coached at Tennessee State, and he's a Hall of Fame coach. It's an honor to coach in this game and get ready for this game. Not because it's Deion on the other side, but because of the rich history of two schools, and this is yet another chapter in this great rivalry that we can be a part of, and it's always special. Last weekend was special to be in the Black College Football Hall of Fame Classic in Canton, Ohio, to coach against Grambling State and Coach Hobbs and his group. And this is another opportunity for us to showcase our talent, to showcase our coaches, the brand of our schools, and show the pageantry and the tradition of HBCU football on a grander scale, hopefully. So I'm really excited about it.
Thank you. I've got to jump off. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Teresa.
Mike, go ahead with your questions.
Eddie, when you were hired, you said you reached out to Deion Sanders because he had been through such a similar experience. Can you talk about that and what advice he gave you? I don't think we've ever talked. Did he tell you to do this or not?
Well, he said, I asked him flat out, I said, hey, given my situation and, me never having coached in my life, can I be successful at this? Can I help build the program? And he said, absolutely, you can. I think it's great that you get into the profession. There are different type of head coaches. There are play callers. There are the CEO types as well. And I kind of molded myself in that fashion because I didn't have the coaching experience. And just bringing in the right people, bringing the right staff. So, after talking to Deion, he shared with me a few things to look out for, things I needed to do, some words of advice, and things I needed to have my hands wrapped around in terms of the business side of college football. And it was very helpful. I consider him a mentor, a great friend, competitor. So it's going to be awesome to put my product up against his on Saturday.
You mentioned a great friend and competitive. What was your relationship with Deion before?
I mean, it was. I don't call Deion every day. I have never really reached out to him in that capacity. It's always been cordial. It's always been respectful. It's always been one where he's giving me some advice. I know if I picked up the phone right now and called him for anything, he'll answer the phone. We wish each other the best via Twitter or via text message, and that's it. It's been very cordial.
How much of your conversation with Deion touched on the push, the current push to increase the visibility for HBCUs and what's going on in HBCUs across the board?
Well, what we both bring, Mike, is some resources that we bring to the table in terms of our relationships that we have both nationally and of course me living in Nashville, that probably wouldn't come to this university without that. It's just making and enhancing a better system, a better quality of life, a better holistic approach to what we're trying to do and what we're trying to enhance. Again, I can't speak for Jackson State and how they've operated in the past or what they need. I mean, each school is different. All I can say is, from our perspective, just some resources that have reached out to say, hey, we need X, Y, and Z for our players, and people step up and they do it. And these are the things that we can have to continue to do to keep our program sustainable.
Last one from me, just wondered about the quarterback situation, hoping it'll be a little bit more stable for you this week without COVID. What are you thinking, as far as us going in with the starter and the idea of rotating?
Well, we don't want to rotate. I think we want to settle in on one guy. We're still looking at that, assessing that between Davion Bryant and Jeremy Hickbottom. Want to give them both an opportunity to see who steps up and takes the position. We'll determine our starter right around game time to figure that out. Both players were out last week and didn't have a chance to practice. So in essence, last week was their practice in the game. Jeremy was a little bit more efficient in the passing game. I think Davion did some things well, running the football, taking care of the ball. Didn't make any key turnovers, understanding what we were trying to do offensively, also gave him the edge. So we'll figure that out after this week in terms of assessing which quarterback wants to take it by the horns.
Okay, thanks.
No problem, Mike.
I got one more for you, Coach, and then we'll let you go if nobody else has any. What were some of the things, though, you were pleased with? Starling had a good running game, things like that that you got out of the first performance that are building blocks.
Well, you mentioned a good running game. In fact, I don't think he did. His tracks weren't right. at times. He had COVID legs, quarantine legs. Didn't quite see the pop that we're used to seeing him play with, and that was due to not practicing. I felt that he was very tough when he did what he can do. Averaged the ball 4.9 yards a clip. I felt like when we got into rhythm, we just lined up and we went. It wasn't anything fancy what we're trying to do. We weren't trying to deceive anybody. We just lined up and ran the football to the point where they had to call a timeout early in the third quarter. And that was pleasing to see, because that's what we preach, is to wear you out. And that was starting to work. So I was excited about that. We're starting to find our identity in the running game. Now, the quarterback situation, we got to settle on the quarterback, as Mike alluded to. And hopefully we can start to build some type of balance within our offensive passing and running the football. I felt like defensively we played well enough to win the game. We got some key stops, got a key turnover. I wish that Eddie could have picked that ball off, because that takes points off the board for Grambling and shifts momentum. He might have scored on that had he picked it off. So I felt like that was pleasing. That was a building block. Little disappointed in my defensive line play. Got pushed around a little bit too much, gave up too many soft yards to Grambling, especially when we knew that they were going to run on certain situations, especially in the 4-minute, 2-minute situation, to try to get the ball back toward the end. They didn't throw the ball pretty much the whole game. I think they threw 4 times, and the quarterback did an exceptional job of protecting the football. And I think our special forces or special teams unit has a chance to be good. I mean, in all phases, I was really pleased by the energy and the intensity that we ran down with on our coverage teams, with the exception of one coverage on punt. Punt protection, it was just an error in technique that allowed for the block punt with a young player. But our return game has a chance to be really good as we get used to it, as we start to really embrace that. I wanted to see more out of our field goal block. I feel like that unit has a chance to be really good. So overall, there were some good things to build on, but from a discipline standpoint, that has to change, and we have to help them as a staff to be successful with getting plays in and eliminating some of the rushed play that we had offensively that led to a lot of our penalties.
Anybody else questions for Coach George? All right, Coach, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank
Best
you,
of luck
guys.
Saturday. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate it.